Have you ever felt like you're playing a character in your own life? That the person you show to the world, the good friend, the perfect partner, the agreeable employee, feels like a carefully constructed role. It's not just in your head. There's a strange, unnerving disconnect between the life you're living and the one you feel you should be living. It's a quiet hum of inauthenticity beneath the surface of your daily interactions. A sense that you're going through the motions, but the real you is nowhere to be found. But what if that persistent, nagging feeling of being a fraud isn't a flaw, but a map? What if it's a series of breadcrumbs leading you back to the most powerful, complete, and authentic version of yourself? This feeling of being unseen, even when you're the center of attention, creates a kind of spiritual hunger. We crave to be truly seen and accepted for who we are, but the person people are applauding isn't really you. It's a character you've designed for social survival, a collection of agreeable traits and mannerisms assembled to win approval. But survival isn't the same as living. Thriving requires something more. In this video, we're going on an inward journey that modern life, with its emphasis on polished images and curated perfection, tells you to avoid at all costs. We're going to walk directly into the shadows of our own psyche, to find what has been lost, disowned, and forgotten. This isn't about becoming a darker person, it's about becoming a whole person. This is the profound and life-altering process of shadow integration. Let's be brutally honest about what it really costs to wear this social mask day in and day out. It's utterly exhausting. Every social interaction, from a morning meeting at work to a casual dinner with friends, it all becomes a performance. You're constantly scanning the room, reading expressions, and meticulously adjusting your behavior, all to meet the perceived expectations of others. You become a social chameleon, blending in so perfectly that you start to forget your own true color. And this isn't just about being polite. No, it's a form of self-erasure that you perform over and over again. But what happens when you spend your entire life dedicated to avoiding waves and making everyone comfortable? You never learn to swim in the deep waters of your own being. You stay in the shallows, where it feels safe and predictable. But you can always see the deep, mysterious ocean of your full potential, shimmering just beyond your reach. This constant, draining performance creates a state of chronic, low-grade anxiety. There's a persistent, underlying fear of being found out. A quiet terror, really, that if you were to let the mask slip and show your true self, with all its messy emotions, inconvenient truths, and unconventional desires, you would be fundamentally and irrevocably rejected. This social mask isn't just a metaphor, It has a name in psychology. The pioneering psychiatrist Carl Jung called it the persona. The term, it comes from the Latin word for the masks worn by actors in ancient theater, those designed to project a specific character to the audience. Your persona, it's the outward face we present to the world. It's that conformity archetype, designed to make a definite impression on others, and often to conceal our real, unedited self. Now, the problem isn't in simply having a persona, okay? We all need one to navigate different social contexts. A flexible persona? That's a tool for healthy adaptation. The problem arises, though, when you believe the persona is all you are. When that mask fuses to the skin, the true self beneath it slowly suffocates. And that leads to a profound and hollow sense of meaninglessness, burnout, and a life that just feels like it belongs to someone else. So, if the persona is the curated, socially acceptable self we show the world, what happens to all the parts of us we deem unacceptable, shameful, weak, or inappropriate? Well, they don't just disappear into thin air. No. They're actively banished to the unconscious realms of our psyche, where they coalesce to form what Jung termed the shadow. The shadow is the dark side of our personality, not because it's inherently evil, but because it's hidden from the light of our conscious awareness. It holds all the thoughts, feelings, instincts, and desires that our conscious mind has rejected or repressed. As children, we're born whole. We express anger, joy, selfishness, and vulnerability, with uninhibited freedom. But we quickly learn that the world operates on a system of rewards and punishments. Some traits are praised and encouraged, while others are met with disapproval, shame, or punishment. The praised parts, they're carefully selected and polished to form our persona. The disapproved parts, the unacceptable emotions and behaviors, they're pushed down into the darkness of the unconscious to form the shadow. So, a boy who's repeatedly told, "Men don't cry," well, he represses his natural sensitivity. And a girl who's told not to be bossy or too much, she learns to suppress her innate leadership qualities and assertiveness. These disowned parts, though, they don't just go away, they simply go into hiding. This is where the term dark psychology comes in, and it's absolutely crucial that we define it correctly for our purposes. In popular culture and on the internet, dark psychology often refers to the study and use of manipulation, coercion, and control tactics to exploit others. But that is absolutely not what we're talking about here. For this journey, we're reclaiming and redefining the term to mean something far more profound and personal. The systematic study of the hidden, unconscious, and often darker parts of the human mind, starting with your own. Here, dark simply means unseen, residing in the shadows of consciousness. Your shadow isn't a monster to be slain. No, it's a fundamental, powerful part of you that's often been misunderstood and neglected. It's a source of immense, raw energy that can be both creative and destructive. By ignoring it, we don't get rid of it. We just lose all conscious influence over it, allowing it to direct our lives from behind the scenes. When you live a life divided, that perfect, polished persona on the surface, and the chaotic, repressed shadow boiling underneath, well, you pay an incredibly heavy price. This deep internal conflict, this psychic civil war, it manifests in your life in painful, predictable, and often very destructive ways. First, and perhaps most commonly, there's the pattern of self-sabotage. You find yourself on the verge of a major success, a promotion, a healthy relationship, a creative breakthrough, and suddenly, you do something inexplicable to undermine it all. You miss the deadline, you pick a fight, or you procrastinate until the opportunity just vanishes. This is often your shadow at work. If you've suppressed your ambition because maybe you were taught it was unbecoming or arrogant, your shadow might sabotage your career. It wants to keep you safe in that smallness you're accustomed to. Essentially, it acts out the very failure your conscious mind fears, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Second, you attract what you repress. Jung had a famous saying that encapsulates this perfectly. What you resist persists. If you deny your own anger, you'll find yourself constantly surrounded by angry people. An aggressive boss, a short-tempered partner, irritable friends. And if you deny your own vulnerability, you may attract people who are perpetually in crisis, always demanding your care. The outside world really just becomes a mirror, reflecting back the very parts of yourself you refuse to see. Your life becomes a stage where other people are hired, often unconsciously, to act out the dramas you've forbidden yourself from experiencing directly. Finally, there are the emotional eruptions, that sudden and often shocking loss of control. You might pride yourself on being calm, patient, and collected, but every so often you just snap over something completely minor, like the wrong brand of coffee, a slow driver, or just a casual comment. These are what Jungians call shadow possessions, moments when the vast, repressed energy of the shadow bursts through the cracks in your carefully maintained persona. These outbursts, they're deeply confusing and shameful, reinforcing that false belief that these dark parts of you are dangerous and must be kept locked away at all costs. And so, the cycle of repression, projection, and eruption continues, growing stronger with each turn. So, how do you break this cycle? How do you begin to heal this divide and reclaim your true self. There is only one first step, and it is a profoundly courageous one. You must be willing to turn around and consciously face what you've been running from your entire life. This is the beginning of the process Jung called individuation, the lifelong journey of integrating the conscious with the unconscious to become a whole, unified, and authentic individual. The aim is to strip away the false wrappings of the persona and to understand the powerful, unconscious forces that influence you, bringing them into harmony with your conscious ego. Shadow integration isn't about eliminating or destroying the shadow. That's impossible, and it would leave you psychically impoverished. The goal is to bring its contents into the light of your awareness, to approach them with curiosity and compassion, to understand their origins, and to integrate their energy into your conscious personality in a healthy, productive way. It's about finding the wisdom hidden in your wounds. This heroic journey can be broken down into 3 fundamental steps: identifying your projections, engaging in inner dialogue, and consciously integrating the disowned traits into your life. The shadow is, by its very nature, hidden from your conscious view. So, how do we find something that we can't see directly? The easiest and most reliable way is to look for its reflection. We find the shadow by looking at what we project onto other people. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism, where we unconsciously attribute our own unacceptable or unacknowledged qualities to another person or group. Jung said, "Projections change the world into the replica of one's own unknown face." The world acts as a giant mirror, reflecting our own inner state back at us. To begin this work, you must learn to pay close attention to your own strong emotional reactions. That person whose arrogance infuriates you to an irrational degree, could they be touching on a disowned ambition or a secret grandiosity within you? That overly passive colleague whose weakness you despise, could they be mirroring a vulnerability you're terrified of admitting in yourself? Your judgment is a map. What you harshly and relentlessly criticize in others is very often a disowned part of yourself, an intense, disproportionate emotional reaction, a surge of rage, disgust, or envy that feels far bigger than the situation warrants. That's a neon sign, pointing directly at one of your shadow traits. Interestingly, this dynamic works for positive projections as well. The people you deeply admire, the ones you put on a pedestal for their creativity, their courage, or their confidence, they're often reflecting your golden shadow. These are the positive, powerful, and brilliant parts of yourself that you've also disowned, perhaps because you were taught it was vain to shine too brightly, or because you harbor a deep-seated belief that you aren't worthy of such greatness. To begin, become an emotional detective. The next time you feel a powerful surge of anger, envy, judgment, or even intense, worshipful admiration, stop, pause, and ask the crucial question: what is this person showing me about myself that I have refused to see? Once you begin to spot your projections, out there in the wild, the next step is to explore them. And you need to do that in a safe, private, and non-judgmental space. Shadow work journaling. It's one of the most powerful and accessible tools for this practice. Now, this isn't a Dear Diary exercise about what you did today. No, it's an intentional, guided exploration of your inner world. It's an active dialogue with the hidden parts of your psyche. Here are some specific prompts to begin your investigation. First, describe a person who triggers intense irritation or judgment in you. What specific trait infuriates you the most? Now, get honest. Where in your own life do you exhibit a milder, perhaps a more acceptable form of this very trait? And when and how did you learn that this quality was, well, bad? Next, think about the last time you felt deeply ashamed, or perhaps humiliated. Describe that situation in detail. What belief about yourself did that situation activate? A belief like, I am incompetent, or I am unlovable, or even, I am not enough. Where did that belief originate, do you think? Third, what emotions do you consistently avoid feeling? Is it anger? Is it sadness? fear, or even joy? What are you afraid would happen if you allowed yourself to fully feel that emotion, without judgment or interruption, for just 5 minutes? For our fourth prompt, let's engage in active imagination, a technique developed by Carl Jung. Find a quiet space and just relax. Then, write a letter to a part of yourself you keep hidden. Maybe it's your inner critic, your angry self, or your frightened child. Ask it what it wants, what it fears, and what it needs from you. After that, switch your pen to your other hand, or simply shift your mindset, and let that part write a letter back to you. Allow the answers to flow, without any conscious filtering. This journey into the self is one of the most challenging, yet most rewarding you can ever take. It's truly the work of a lifetime. If you're ready to stop running from yourself and start the process of integrating all that you are, I invite you to join a community of fellow travelers on the same path. Acknowledge your commitment to this profound work by taking a conscious first step. To declare your intention and to signal the beginning of your journey, just comment, "I embrace my shadow," below. Let's make the unconscious conscious together. Awareness is the crucial first step, but the ultimate goal of shadow work is integration, the process of finding healthy, conscious, and constructive ways to express the energy of your shadow traits in your life. Think of the energy of the shadow as crude oil. In its raw, unrefined form, it's messy, toxic, and can pollute everything it touches. But if you build a refinery, through awareness and conscious choice, that same crude oil becomes a powerful, high-octane fuel that can propel you forward. Consider these examples of how raw shadow energy can be refined into a conscious asset. First, anger. Repressed anger doesn't disappear. It turns into bitterness, passive aggression, or sudden explosive rage. Integrated anger, though, becomes the clear, focused energy you need to set healthy boundaries, to say no, and to stand up against injustice. Next, selfishness. Repressed selfishness, often learned by those conditioned to be, well, people pleasers, leads to deep resentment, burnout, and a feeling of being used. Integrated selfishness, on the other hand, becomes healthy self-care, self-respect, and the ability to prioritize your own needs and well-being without guilt. Then there's fear. Repressed fear metastasizes into chronic anxiety, indecision, and paralysis. Integrated fear, however, becomes prudence, healthy caution, and the ability to accurately assess risk. It allows you to feel the fear and act wisely, anyway. And what about laziness? The laziness you so harshly criticize in others might just be your own body and soul's disowned need for rest and non-productive being. Integrating this doesn't mean you stop working hard. No, it means you learn to value rest as a vital part of the creative and productive cycle, which, ultimately, prevents burnout and makes you more effective. Finally, aggression. Repressed aggression can lead to destructive impulses or even self-harm. Integrated aggression transforms into healthy assertiveness, ambition, and the drive to achieve your goals. Integration is an active, moment-to-moment process. It's not a switch you flip once, it's a daily practice. So, when you feel a surge of raw anger, instead of immediately suppressing it or lashing out, you can learn to pause, breathe, and ask, what boundary of mine is being crossed right now? This is the fundamental shift, from being a victim of your unconscious programming to becoming a conscious creator of your life. While much of the discussion around the shadow, understandably, focuses on the darker traits we've disowned, it's equally, if not more, important to address the golden shadow. This is the part of your unconscious where your greatest, most dazzling, and unrealized potentials are hidden. Perhaps you were a gifted artist as a child, but were told by a well-meaning adult that it wasn't a real career, so you buried your creativity. That intense, almost painful admiration you feel when you see other artists thriving, well, that is your golden shadow calling out to you, showing you the gold you've left behind. One of the greatest tragedies of modern life, though, is how many of us repress our golden shadow. We become enthusiastic cheerleaders for other people who are living out our own secret dreams, while, at the very same time, denying ourselves permission to even try. We celebrate their courage, their success, their brilliance, but a part of us feels a sharp pang of longing. A quiet grief, for the self we could be, if only we were brave enough. This is often rooted, you see, in a fear of our own greatness. As author Robert A. Johnson noted, it's often more terrifying to discover you have a profound nobility of character than it is to find out you're a bum. Integrating the golden shadow means giving yourself permission to shine. It means taking responsibility for your own gifts, and it means reclaiming those disowned parts of your soul that are full of light, creativity, and power. The process begins with a simple but profound recognition. The beauty, strength, and brilliance you project onto your heroes already resides within you, dormant and just waiting to be expressed. Your admiration, it's the evidence. As you move through this transformative process, it becomes vital to understand the evolving relationship between your persona and your true self. Remember, the goal isn't to destroy the persona. It's a necessary and useful tool for social interaction. The goal is to create a conscious, flexible, and authentic relationship with it. The inauthentic person, trapped in their conditioning, believes they are the mask. Their entire identity and sense of self-worth are dependent on external validation, applause, and approval. The authentic, integrated self, however, knows they're the one, wearing the mask. They can put it on for a specific social function and take it off when it's no longer needed, without ever forgetting who they are underneath. Their sense of worth comes from within, unshakable and whole. The true self is the totality of your being, your conscious ego, your integrated unconscious shadow, both dark and golden, and your flexible persona. Living authentically means your external actions are finally aligned with this inner true self. You're no longer performing for an invisible audience. You're simply and powerfully expressing who you are. This is the monumental shift from a life guided by the question, "What do they want me to be?" to a life lived from the answer to the question, "Who am I?" The journey of shadow integration is nothing less than the path back to your own soul. It's the sacred process of finding and reclaiming all the lost, forgotten, and disowned pieces of yourself, to become whole once more. By mustering the courage to turn and face your shadow, you take back the immense power you've been unconsciously leaking your entire life. The vast energy once spent on repression, performance, and managing anxiety becomes available to you as fuel. Fuel for a life of authenticity, purpose, and genuine connection. You stop being a passive reactor to life's circumstances and become its conscious co-creator. You become more compassionate toward others because you recognize their shadows and understand that their behavior, like your own, is often driven by unconscious pain. This isn't a one-time event, but a lifelong practice of courageous self-awareness. There'll be moments of discomfort, resistance, and fear. That's a guarantee. But on the other side of that fear lies a version of you that's whole, unshakable, and profoundly free. You no longer need to exhaust yourself trying to be the person everyone else needs you to be, because you're finally, unapologetically, and completely the person you were always meant to be. The journey into the shadow is the only way to truly and sustainably step into the light.